Hello everyone, and welcome back. We're halfway through the year at this point, and what a year it's been! We've had so many good games released already. We've had Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring. Okay, it's been mostly Elden Ring, let's face it. However, there have also been a number of indie games released this year, and I thought, I know a very intelligent bunch of people on the internet, that's you lovely people, and I thought you'd like to hear about them. So in this video, I'm going to present the 5 best indie games of 2022 so far, in my opinion. Beware some spoilers ahead for the following games, and beware a lot of puns. Like, so many. Have fun! Another indie game list, another roguelike. Last time was Loop Hero. This time we have Loot River, a top-down action roguelike from Straka Studio. If I was trying to be clever, I'd say that Loot River is what you'd get if Bloodborne and Tetris had a roguelike baby. The problem is that I then need to explain what the hell that even means. So here we go. At the beginning of the game, you die. Don't worry though, it's one of those times where you're supposed to die right at the start. At least you know what you're in for. You're soon brought back to life by a mysterious woman called Iphis, who directs you out into the game world to destroy a dangerous relic. Almost immediately you're surrounded by murky environments and somber music, which give the game a real sense of atmosphere. I'm always a fan of pixel art, and this game is absolutely gorgeous. The environments feel dark and oppressive, as if all the filth of the city above is flowing downriver. You travel along the river on floating Tetris blocks, which you can move into free spaces to get where you're going. It feels very satisfying to zip around the river, and solving the puzzles was more involved than I would have expected. As you press on, you'll meet a variety of NPCs who will travel back to Sanctuary, the game's hub area, and unlock new gear for future runs. With each new NPC in Sanctuary, you'll learn a little more about this murky world you find yourself in. I do wish the NPCs had a little more to them than just acting as upgrade trees and exposition dumps. Would it be too much to ask to go fishing on this godforsaken river? Where was I? Oh yes, stabbing. You can equip 2 weapons and 3 charms, which can give you various bonuses depending on what you find. Spells can also complement your combat style, and there's plenty of combinations to try out. You also use the platforms in combat as much as for puzzle solving, and putting some distance between yourself and an enemy can be very useful. Throughout a run you upgrade your stats in the same way as an RPG, but these reset every time you die. I'll be honest, I absolutely love this system. Every single run you can upgrade your stats in a way that fits the playstyle and weapons that you find on that run, but it doesn't lock you into anything further down the line. Lovely stuff. There's one more mechanic in this game which I think is brilliant, and that's the health potions. You have 4 healing potions at the beginning of every run, and before every zone you enter, you can invest your potions with this charming NPC named Soap. I'm sure he's completely trustworthy, right? Any healing potions that you invest with Soap will be doubled when you next see him. Give him 3, you'll get 6 next time. This really pays off when you start to get confident in the earlier levels. I tried to get through the first area using only a single potion, to try and give myself a chance in the later stages. Let me tell you, confidence absolutely pays off. Especially when you're fighting a horribly mutated monster with a dozen health potions stocked up. I do have a few criticisms of Loot River, but there's nothing that ruins the experience. There are only 6 zones in the game, and 2 of them are just boss fights. It would have been nice to have a little more variety, but the zones that we do have are varied enough that it doesn't matter too much. I always have the same 2 complaints with the roguelike genre. Lack of customization and way too much focus on random chance. As someone with a big love of RPGs, I always love customization. Dressing your character up, finding the right hat and weapon that you like is an important part of gaming. Shut up, yes it is, customization is important. So when there's no way to choose which of the hundreds of weapons, spells, armour and hats you start with, it stops me connecting with the character so much. Secondly, random chance is just irritating. You'll always need to find the right set of randomly dropped gear, with the right stats, with the planets in the right position, or you may as well scrap the entire run. You can learn the paths all you want, but if you don't find anything useful throughout the run, what's the point? Just die and try again. But as I said, these are problems I have with the genre, rather than the game itself. And Loot River is a fantastic example of the roguelike genre. The game feels really good to play, which is something that's overlooked more than you think, and you can easily find yourself losing an hour or 2 to that one more go feeling. It's actually one of the shorter roguelikes I've played, but the developers have packed such a dense game into such a simple concept that it doesn't outstay its welcome. So if you're looking for a traditionally hardcore roguelike experience, grab a paddle. You're going up the creek and you're going to need it. Skateboarding is cool. That's a fact that Olli World understands right from the start. This successful side-scrolling skateboard spectacle is the third game in the Olli series, but you may not know that, because the others were released on the PlayStation Vita. Yes, that old thing. You start off as a fresh-faced skater, trying to become the new skate wizard, and ascend to Nirvana. There are so many skate puns in this game and I just love it. You and your motley band of skaters travel around the world from level to level, trying to learn from the skate gods that created the world. Whilst the story mode is pretty thin, it's full of heart, and feels good to have people genuinely wanting you to succeed the whole time. Olli World is dripping with style and colour, in all the ways a skateboarding game should. The art and customization options are extensive, giving your personal skater your own sense of style. There are so many customization options that you'll go blind if you try and take them all in at once. From ice cream heads to leafy jumpers, this game has it all. But you didn't come to a skateboarding game to talk about fashion, as fun as that may be. You came for the skating. There's a term that game designers use which I absolutely hate, but which Olli World nails. It's called game flow, but I just call it being in the zone. Game flow is a mental state in which you are fully immersed in what you're doing in the game. There'll be times when you crash out over and over and over and over and over again, each time getting more annoyed and shouting because that ramp came out of nowhere, damn it! But then, all of a sudden, you'll get in the zone, and the run will be perfect. You'll pull a trick off every ramp, avoid every obstacle, and beat your personal best by 10,000 points. Then you come back out of the zone and wonder, how the hell did I do that? Due to a combination of instant restarts and a low skill barrier for entry, Olli World manages to get its hooks into you right from the very first jump. I once played the same level for about an hour, trying to do all the optional challenges. I probably restarted 20 or 30 times before I managed it. But the thing is, you don't even need to spend all that time on one level. Every challenge is optional, and the only way you progress in the story is just by finishing the level. It's only completionist weirdos like me who'll try and go back and complete every challenge the game has to offer. I may have made it sound like this game is difficult, but that's far from the truth. The tutorials actually come in gradually throughout the story. You don't need to know too much to get through the game. Any old combination of jumps and grinds will get you there. But like I said, if you want to do all those optional challenges and get all those cool hats, well, you're going to need to learn a few things. So get out there and be the very best, like no one ever was. Wait, no, that's the wrong franchise. Weird West is a top-down, old-school action RPG in the style of the original Fallout games, but with much more action. This is a cowboy game after all, and there's a reason people called it the Wild West. The setting is sort of what you'd get if H.P. Lovecraft had written Red Dead Redemption, so you'll be facing secret cults, witches, and horrors of the night alongside the usual bandits. To be fair to Weird West, it does do a good job of burying the weirdness of its setting for a good few hours into the campaign. You start off as a bounty hunter. Yes, start off, I'll come back to that later. She's searching for her kidnapped husband and looking for vengeance for her dead son. Minor spoiler warning here, you track down the gang that took him, sneak up on one of their strongholds, and then this happens. I absolutely love little touches like this. Everything seems normal and fine when you're in a settlement or a campsite, but then you'll stumble across a pack of zombies, or a witch, or a group of pigmen. It really does a good job of balancing the weird with the West. Combat is similar to a twin-stick shooter, with a number of different guns to choose from, such as pistols, shotguns, or rifles. There are also unlockable abilities for your weapons, but you get a slow-motion bullet time mode for free, so why would you bother? I have a feeling that several of the upgrades are there more for variety than actual usefulness. There are very few fights you can't win by just slow-mo diving around while shooting everyone full of bullets. It's actually quite easy to die if you mess up, so the quick save function is pretty much essential. It does the Dishonored thing of giving you 103 different solutions for the problem of, how do I kill these people? You could kick an oil barrel near a lantern, shoot the lantern, which then explodes and sets the area on fire, causing enemies to get set on fire and panic, or you could shoot them all with your pistol, because bullets cost basically nothing and do a hell of a lot more damage. So again, why should you bother with any of the complicated stuff? Well, you remember earlier when I said that you start off as a bounty hunter? You don't actually play as her for very long. You see, there are actually 5 separate mini-campaigns that make up the larger campaign. Each time you finish one, you switch to a new character and begin all over again, focusing on a different objective. You can actually go back and recruit your former character as a member of your new posse, and this is usually a good idea because I'll have all of the good loot from the previous campaign. That's why you should change up how you play. The bounty hunter picks off enemies from a distance and sneaks through camps, professional and clean. The pigman with a shotgun is not that. This is one of the more interesting parts of the game. New characters give you new perspectives into the world, and a different way to confront your problems. One of the characters is from a Native American inspired tribe, and the developers actually consulted with a Native American tribe to ensure that the portrayal was authentic. Other developers could learn from this. The realm. So why give Weird West a try? Because combat is challenging but rewarding. Exploration actually helps and uncovers more about the world. And because cowboys versus zombies is just awesome. Can I get a yeehaw? No? Fine, suit yourselves. Trek to Yomi is a side-scrolling samurai game, developed by Flying Wild Hog and published by Devolver Digital, taking inspiration from the films of Akira Kurosawa. Every single thing in this game is black and white, calling back to those classic films. The story is a classic samurai film plot. Set in Japan's Edo period, the story follows a young warrior named Hiroki, who goes on a journey to confront the people responsible for the destruction of his village. Along the way, he fights hundreds of enemies in flashy samurai duels, and faces the horrors of the underworld. This was the first surprise for me. Before going in, I was unaware that Yomi was the Japanese underworld, so about halfway through the game I had the most jarring tonal shift, when I went from feudal Japanese villages to frightening supernatural swamps. The setting of certain areas reminded me of the 2010 game Limbo, possibly due to the black and white colour palette, possibly due to spiders. Who can say? The black and white cinematic look is undeniably the game's biggest selling point, and it's one of the most stylised games I've seen in a long time. To be fair, gorgeous is a word I use a lot to describe good looking games, but I'll say it again to a lovely little montage. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Trek to Yomi is undoubtedly an artistic game first and foremost. The striking use of light sources against shadow, high contrast areas, and stunning vistas all come together to make the game look as good as it possibly can. In certain areas the fights are simply silhouettes against a white background, and it's to the game's credit that you can still understand what's happening. The environments did become a little murky in the second half. I know this was intentional, but it does make it harder to tell what's going on in the middle of combat. Combat is straight to the point, pun intended. For the first few chapters it feels cinematic and impressive, as you learn to time your parries, rolls and combos to deal with your enemies. However, in chapter 2 you start to learn the combo moves that stun enemies instantly, leaving them vulnerable to an instant kill finisher. This move also heals you, and you can't be damaged while performing the finisher, so why would you use anything else? When almost every enemy in the game can be defeated with the same 3-button combo, it's time to add some variety. There are a variety of enemy types, including armoured and ranged enemies, but they're still defeated in the same way as everyone else, so I barely took notice. It would have been nice to see different enemies needing different skills to defeat them. You unlock about 24 skills throughout the story, but I never found myself needing more than a handful of them. If I was to suggest a way to fix this, the developers could add in a New Game Plus mode, or a challenge mode where you fight wave after wave of enemies. As it stands, combat never provided much of a challenge, even on the higher difficulties. Although few and far between, the boss fights are where the game's combat shines the brightest. They're some of the most cinematic and challenging moments in the game. Just look at this. They look like they could have come right out of a samurai film. This is where the combat really starts to feel challenging, probably because the game stops you from using finishing moves. Trek to Yomi is a gorgeous looking game that struggles to keep the pace throughout its 6-hour runtime. However, its focus on art style more than makes up for it, and it's one of the most eye-catching games I've played in a while. If you're looking for a nice, casual samurai game, I'd be hard-pressed not to recommend it. It's rare to find a game this stylish, even from Devolver, we only publish stylish games, digital. It's easily the best black and white game I've played all year. There is no way I'll be able to say everything I want to about Tunic in a single video, but I'll try my best anyway. Tunic is an action-adventure game developed by Canadian developer Andrew Schuldies. The game takes its name from the little fox cub you play as, who wears a tunic, and who should be immediately made into a plushie. I don't make the rules, just look at his will face! Ahem. But that's not why Tunic is brilliant. At the beginning of the game, you wake up on a beach, knowing absolutely nothing about who you are, where you are, or what you're supposed to do. It's a nice feeling to know absolutely nothing about a game, even though it's all comfortingly familiar. The overworld is beautifully designed, and due to the isometric perspective, there are dozens of hidden corners and secrets just out of view. You'll wander around a corner and find a chest containing a useful item, or a page giving you a hint on where to go next. It's up to you to find the secrets yourself, because the game doesn't tell you anything, at all. You're just supposed to pick it up and figure it out along the way. and it's a testament to the design that you actually can. But that's not why Tunic is brilliant. Let's get one thing straight. I think this might be the most well-designed game I've ever played. Checkpoints and shortcuts are almost perfectly placed, so you never go too long without a rest. The shortcuts themselves are completely imperceptible until the game leads you through them. It's doubly impressive when you realise this was all designed by one man. Schuldi's skill in design is impeccable. Clues to your next objectives are found in the cryptic pages you pick up around the overworld. I'm not giving you spoilers on what they are or where they're from, because you need to play this game for yourself to figure that out. But suffice to say, it's one of the most wonderfully nostalgic tricks I've seen a game play. But that's not why Tunic is brilliant. The game takes clear influence from Zelda and Dark Souls especially. That much is obvious. There are the visual similarities with classic Zelda games, and the consumable health potions that refill at checkpoints come straight from Dark Souls. The bosses are all suitably epic as well as giving a meaty combat challenge to show off all the skills you've learned. Dodges, blocks, magical items and consumables, you'll need all of them to win. But Tunic doesn't just copy other games. It respects them, it understands them. Tunic has such a reverence for gaming history, and is as much of a conversation with the past as it is breaking ground for the future. Tunic can absolutely hold its own among any of the games in recent memory, and it's one of the very few games that I'm going to buy twice when it comes out on PlayStation in September. So that's why Tunic is brilliant. Not because of any one single part, but because every part works together to create one of the most memorable gaming experiences I've ever had. Tunic had me smiling from beginning to end, and you should all go and play it immediately. Now, is anyone going to sell me a plushie or what? So there we go. That was the 5 best indie games of 2022 so far, in my opinion. Do you have any other ideas? Please put them in the comments. Also, please do like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Now, what do we have on screen right now? Well, up here we have the Indie-Go playlist, where I play through a different indie game every single Friday. And down here we have another of my videos, which is the 5 best open world games if you're a complete beginner to open world games. I hope to see you there. Goodbye everyone.